Good morning. So, I want to talk about as we progress on the spiritual awakening and the closer we come back to ourselves and the closer that we get to our pure God essence, so the closer that we get to God through ourselves, the finer the resolutions of what we are finding, the shadows within ourselves, the shadow work that we're doing, the things that are starting to get light on them. We're starting to find the depth of the roots of the belief systems that we hold, the perspectives that we hold, and how deep the roots go and how they manage our behavior in the outside world. Things that we have never noticed before. We get to the finest resolutions. We're getting to the very, like, the hair of the roots, and finding the where these belief systems, these perspectives are micromanaging us from underneath. These are like archetypes, right? They're archetypes of behavior. So for instance, within myself, I'm finding the scarcity mindset that is still in there managing me. And this was the mindset that I was raised in. This is the mindset that I was brought up to believe, and this is a mindset that I think that much of humanity is has uh, the programming of the scarcity. As long as you're within the matrix, then you have this belief that there is not enough in the world, that in order to produce you have to be out working, right? Of course, it's not absolute, right? So everything that I say is not absolute, but there is a consensus and definitely a broad mindset of scarcity in the world, and that through fear is how humanity is controlled and how humanity is set into the structures of society. They're held there by fear that you can't do it differently. There are these set rules that were set by a society that have been a consensus passed on generation to generation to generation, and we were brought up in that. So not only specifically in the homes that we were brought up and the behaviors that we were taught, and it's a perspective that you are taught. It's not necessarily does it come with words. It comes through emotion and behavior. It's taught through emotion and taught through the example of behavior that you've had by your parents, by society, by the schools. So it was all set up for us before we were even born. So there is no blame here. But as we go through ourselves and we're finding these fine roots within ourselves, um, and many times we have no one to speak with this about because we're coming in so deep and pulling out these fine little roots that are micromanaging us from underneath, these archetypes. And the people that are around us in our lives, for instance, our parents, our siblings, our friends, um, are still set in these mindsets. And so they can't perceive the places that we get to within the spiritual awakening. So a lot of times, not only are we finding these places, and the deeper we go, the more painful it is, because we're going all the way into the depths of our souls and pulling the root by pulling what we have believed to be us and what we have believed to be a way of existence out from the root. And many times we feel so alone in this process because others can't understand how detrimental it is when we find these roots. The closer we get to our God essence, our core essence, our pure vibration, our connection to the all, our connection to the universe, the closer the further we go inside, and the closer we get back to that fine essence, the more painful it is, the things that we find, even if they're minuscule. It seems to be that the resolutions that we get to are at the more that we progress and the more that we go through ourselves. In the beginning, it's like, well, it's like an elephant in a China store. But as we progress, it's like we get in there with tweezers and we get to the very makings of our beings, things that were programmed in there as infants, as we came out of the womb and had that abandonment. Like all of a sudden, we're our own entity. Um, and we get this false sense of I am separate, I am this, I have to survive. I create all these mechanisms in order to survive. And a lot of these mechanisms, that's what we're talking about. These mechanisms aren't even ours. They're mechanisms that are imposed on us when we are a clean slate, when we are pure energy. We come out pure energy, and then we're programmed in a certain way to believe certain things about the world around us, our place in the world, what possibilities there are for us, what is open for us. And as we go through this spiritual awakening and this self-cleansing, purifying process, that once you're set, it's once you're set on this spiritual awakening path, you're going there. You're going there. It's taking you, and the further in we go, the more intense it gets. So the more pain. So the smaller the things that we're finding out and pulling them out, the more painful it seems to be. When we first start on this spiritual awakening, we see things in more bulk. Oh, I have this scarcity uh, um, um, preconceived idea, and in the beginning when you see it, it's kind of, you see it as a kind of bulky, as it's a big ball. And as you disperse that, you get into the fine roots of it, and you're picking it out with tweezers, with the tiniest things. The more painful it is, it seems like. I think it's also because your whole sense of being, your whole sense of I is sitting on those, and it's things that you see are still managing you, that you didn't know were managing you. It's like you're blind to them, and then all of a sudden it's opened and you have to face it, and you see how much these things have been micromanaging you. And the pain in that, the shame when you start seeing these resolutions of how those things are managing you, and you start seeing how far you were out of sync by these little tiny the finest resolutions of your soul. It's And you see that those things are plainly in sight. They are but only you were blind to them, because it's like the fish in water. When a fish is in water, he has to be pulled above the water to even notice that he was in water. So all of a sudden you see these things, and it's so painful. And I think that there's a lot of also fear that if I didn't see it, what if I slip back into it? What else is there that I don't see that is micromanaging me? And what I'm taking for myself, first of all, I'm still going through the pain of it, and I'm still going through, kind of, you go through when you start finding these impurities, and these fine impurities. You, there is a, first of all, there's a shame there, but there's also a fear that uh, what if I fall back into those behaviors? What if those things continue to micromanage me from underneath? And uh, I think that with myself, I'm just doing the best that I can do. Um, they're really just, first of all, accepting it, accepting what I'm finding. Okay, so those things are within me. Now that I can see them, at least I can see them to repair them. And I think that also part of the spiritual awakening is you have to keep falling into those pits until you see them and until you repair them. So it seems like the universe that continues to test you. It feels like you're being tested. And in actuality, you're just being presented with situations in life, you're being stimulated through progression of life, and whatever your typical reactions are still coming up. Only now you're able to see them, and it feels like you're being tested when in fact it's just consequences. It's natural. Your natural way that you have reacted to these situations is the automatic programming is still in place, only you are becoming aware of it and you're seeing it all of a sudden. So it's almost like you're pulling apart from yourself and you're looking at yourself from this higher perspective, and you're seeing those things, and there's so much pain in it. um, so it's in order to purify yourself, you must first see it. And there has to be impurity there in order to purify, right? So that's what the spiritual awakening is all about, coming back to your core nature, coming back to um, being in control of your own behaviors, and taking decisions uh, based on making decisions based on all options open and what is the right path for you, rather than these preconceived ideas that are like um, an internal prison that are holding you in place, holding you apart from all of the options open. Especially with scarcity, then you start making decisions based on the preconceived idea that there isn't enough, or that not all options are open for me, or you don't make the decisions based on, wow, how do I want to experience this? Rather, what are my limitations, and what is the maximum that I can do within these limitations? So it's just a process of finding, um, accepting. You have to accept, because as long as you're fighting against, you're fighting for that falsity. You're fighting, as long as you're fighting against, because there's so much pain in accepting, right? When you find an impurity within yourself and you have to look at it, there's so much pain in accepting it. There's so much pain in that a lot of times we'll start making excuses for ourselves so that we don't have to face, so that we can be right, so that we can, you know, pet the ego, kind of like console the ego. No, no, you're okay. You're okay. It's okay. That when in fact it is okay. You couldn't have done better. But now that we do see it, it's a matter of accepting it, being willing to take the responsibility for it. That means if there's pain in it, okay, there's pain in it. There's pain as long as you're giving resistance to it. And so then when you completely accept it, you can also take responsibility for it. And then you don't have to go down that path again. You don't have to make those decisions based on that. And then you can make a real change in the you can fine tune yourself, make a real change in those places that the constraint mindset, or the archetypes, the structure of behaviors have been managing your decision making and been managing your reactions to situation. These things happen with such an automatic mode that a lot of times we have to go through the full process of making all the mistakes and falling in all the pitfalls before we can look backwards and see it play out, and then get to the conclusions of it, so that we can go in and fix it, and go in and change that belief. Now, these beliefs have been in place for so long that changing beliefs is uncomfortable. Not only is it uncomfortable, what there isn't a mechanism in place instead of that mechanism, because that mechanism was on such an automatic. It is part of our personality, as part of who we believe that we are. And now we find it, and we find it to be false, and we want to repair it, but we still don't know what kind of mechanism to put in there instead of that mechanism. So there's kind of like this emptiness and this gap and this uncomfortable place of change, which comes with all change. Divorce, when we lose somebody close to us, separation, all of the things that make drastic changes in our life make us uncomfortable because we're going into something new. And during the spiritual awakening, we go through this again and again and again and again. And the closer we get back to our core vibration, then the more painful it is, and the quicker the spiral happens, because the more pure you are, the more anything that is out of sync with that is coming to the surface and is mirroring to you in your face. The more pure you are, the more obvious the impurities. So I guess with myself, these last few weeks, I've been going through this deep, deep purging and dark night of the soul. As I come to conclusions, I'm bringing them here. Um, and the thing that gives me peace in this is that it is what it is. I see it when I see it. I couldn't have seen it before I see it. And it's all part of the process, and I am where I am. As long as I stand up where I am now and take responsibility for what it is that I see, that's the best that I can do. I That's the best that I can do, and I'm doing the best that I can. And I keep coming back to um, I'm so happy and blessed to even be on this journey and to even be making these realizations. And you can't be ahead of where you are before you're there. And as long as I'm taking responsibility and standing up, then I can be lenient and soft and compassionate with myself, and it makes me more compassionate also for others on their journey. The deeper I go with myself, the deeper I can go with others. And it's all looking up. It's all looking up. And to get into my God's work, that's what I keep coming back to. Just don't get stuck in the pain. So the pain is part of the process. The pain is what is purifying me. I'm finding that you can't find these impurities without going through the pain and the shock of finding the impurities. But then, go through the pain, don't get stuck, and bring yourself out of it and above it. And then you can start repairing those places and progressing further on the spiritual awakening. So I'm having more compassion towards myself in these places, and remembering to bring the focus into when I'm focused on myself, then I'm in the ego. Okay, but this is part of the process, right? But the more that I do, that I can bring myself to do my God's work, which is to allow whatever gift wants to flow through me to flow through me, the less I'm stuck in those loops. And I can trust that life will keep bringing me the opportunities again and again and again for any impurities that are within me. Those behaviors are happening on automatic without me noticing them. And they are happening again and again and again. And they are creating what is in my life, what is outwardly in my life. And so I can trust that I will have endless opportunities to continue to do the self work forever and ever and ever. Um, that's all relevant, right? Forever in this body, right? As long as I am in this body and having this life experience, I'm going to be stimulated and have those opportunities to rise, because those autopilot things are still running in the background, and they are creating outside experience. So as long as my outside experience is not exactly in sync with me, that means that I have these impurities, but I can trust that as I am able, as I rise or as I go within, I will be able to see these impurities as soon as I am ready to see them. I will see them just like I have been seeing them in these last few weeks, and they've been presented to me again and again and again. Then the life will continue to present me the opportunities to see the impurities. So it's just to continue and do the best that we can. So I'm sending you guys so much love. Thank you for watching.